What to read? I'm Gerard Saylor from the LD Fargo Public Library in beautiful downtown Lake Mills, Wisconsin. Today's a Sunday, so I'm filming this at the circulation desk up front. I just got back from 2 weeks of vacation and I came in to go through my box full of mail, but this is actually easier to do. So here's some books you might be interested in. First up is Volk Shadow by Brent Ghelfi. Ghelfi, this is his second novel. His first novel was Volk's Game, featuring Alexander Volkovoy, I think that's his first name, who is a Russian army colonel, Alexei Volkovoy, and also a criminal in modern-day Russia. He splits both worlds. On one hand, he's beholden to his army general, who is also massively corrupt. And on the other hand, he also works for a crime lord in Moscow. These are really gritty and violent novels. There's a lot of ambiguity about good and bad. Volk is not a great guy. He's involved in a lot of really nasty operations, but he does draw the line in some spots, like for instance for his pornography business. He has a great deal of pride that he employs nobody under the age of 15. You know, that's kind of. But this is really good. It kind of ties into what's going on now and the fighting in Georgia and South Ossetia, or however it's pronounced. Ghelfi spent a lot of time in Russia as a businessman, and also through his travels, and he talks a lot about the crime and corruption and the bureaucracy around Russia. The war in Chechnya comes into it. It's just really good, really elaborate plotting. You don't quite know what's going on, and it's a good action novel. After that is the last true story I'll ever tell. This came out in like 04, 05. The author, John Crawford, he was on his honeymoon cruise in the Caribbean when in the middle of the night he couldn't sleep. He went downstairs to check his email and found out that his National Guard unit in Florida was getting called up to go in the Iraq invasion. After he graduated from high school, he spent about 3 years full-time in the Army, then joined the National Guard to pay for college. And he's only about 2 credits shy of graduation when he got sent over there. And he got over to Iraq and they stayed there. And they stayed there. And they stayed there. They just stayed there. They would get attached to one unit, and that unit would get sent back home. They get attached to another unit, that unit would get sent back home, and it's bounced from spot to spot with a return date constantly being pushed back. And this isn't so much a narrative about what happened. When he was there, he started writing little stories about things that went on during the day. And he's a really good writer. He really drew me in his stories. And one interesting fact about this is that, I mean, he had some pretty unpleasant experiences. Friends died. He saw children die, and he'll kind of touch on them a little bit, and you know that he doesn't really quite want to write about it because it's such unpleasant experiences, but he kind of goes in and he kind of dances around the subject, but you really get a lot from it to understand the way he was feeling, and you understand his post-traumatic stress disorder that he seems to have now. At the epilogue, he writes that he's like in his 3rd apartment in 4 months, or his 5th apartment in 6 months, something insane like that, and he's drinking too much and he can't sleep, and you really kind of get a good perspective on what things were like over there. Well, you kind of get a small perspective of what things were like over there. Tango for a Torturer. This is a really good book. This is actually a translation from a Uruguayan writer, Daniel Chavarria. It's longer. It's 340 pages. Usually longer than the ones I read. Usually the ones I read around the 200 range. But even with the translation, this is excellent writing. The base of the story is that Aldo Rios was an Argentinian who was tortured by a Uruguayan torturer who was loaned out across South America and Central America, who would teach, how would he say it, interviewing skills, informational access skills to different torturers. And he's in Cuba when he finds out that this torturer is there living under an assumed name, and he plots his revenge against him, and by chance he's able to pin a manslaughter case from a car accident on the torturer. The torturer goes to prison, and at the end it looks like he might escape. But it goes back and forth, different stories about each character, and it's just really well done. I mean, that's the bulk of the plot, but it talks about the torturer's point of view, the victim's point of view, the prostitute that both of them were involved in, other little minor characters that go in there. And it's really great because it's set in Cuba, in Havana, and he really uses the setting well, explaining how the politics works, how people live, just the different daily life and the ways of commerce there, which can be so much different. It's kind of capitalistic, but at the same time they have this Marxist theology going on. But anyway, that's three good books. Tango for a Torturer by Chavarria. This is one you might not be willing to try otherwise, so I recommend it. Give it a shot. Last True Story I'll Ever Tell, An Accidental Soldier's Count of the War in Iraq by Crawford. That's a pretty quick read. And Volk Shadow by Brent Ghelfi. I actually went and got to hear Ghelfi talk in Milwaukee in July, and that's when I bought this book. I got my own copy, which I rarely do. And he wrote a little note in here. Gerard, best wishes, Brent Ghelfi. I wish I could be like you. That's what he wrote, see?